Hey, so today I experienced something that I've never experienced in my life before. Freaked me out, thought I was crazy. Still haven't processed it fully. So, as I do every week, twice a week, I make deliveries to the same guy. I've been doing it for 7 months. And it's the same guy every time I walk in. He's got a big garage with like a couple trucks in it. I walk in, I hand him his parts, we talk for a minute, I walk away. I go on my business. Today, I walked in, and he had his back to me, and he was working on his bench, and he must have heard me coming. I don't know, because I was actually pretty quiet, I thought, but when he turned around, I jumped and kind of grabbed my mouth like that because I didn't know what to think. And he laughed a little bit and he called me jumpy. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm just not feeling very good. And I handed him his part and I was like, hey, I gotta go. The reason I reacted that way is because when I looked at him, he was different. He didn't look like the same guy I saw every other time. First thing I saw was he had no color in his eyes. They were completely black. Like you couldn't even see reflections. It was just a black mass. And for some reason, his ears were kind of weird and they had like this little point like that. I don't know what that was. Excuse me. But then I was talking to my friend, and he sent me an article about them saying that a new disorder that's coming out where people are starting to see demon faces in people. And it got me thinking, if they're putting something like that out, could it be a disorder, or is it God is actually letting people see demons and they're just trying to make it look like we're crazy? I still can't process it. I can't. I don't know. And like ever since the eclipse, I find it funny. The clouds look different for some reason. I don't know what it is yet. I'm going to figure that one out. But that could be just me being dumb. The other thing I saw, like I have perfect vision. So I don't know what I saw. If anybody else has ever seen this, can you please let me know, because I'm kind of weirded out right now. Anyway, God bless, love you, take care.
Y'all, I'm at Kroger. Can't see it. Oh, there's Kroger right there, okay? If you... Y'all beware of Kroger. I seen them again. Those little creatures with black eyes, I seen them again. They're in there. They're in the Kroger. I don't know if this has something to do with CERN or Kern, whatever, but apparently they're opening up the portal thing tomorrow. I was literally in the egg aisle, and then I turn around and I see I like seen somebody like kind of looking at me, and I was like at first I thought like maybe they like noticed who I was or something. Maybe they were like watching my YouTube channel or something, or my TikTok, and I was like, oh, like hi, like, you know, but no. I thought it was like a fan. No, it wasn't. I look over, and like their eyes like turned really black, and then their face kind of got kind of distorted. I'll put a picture right up here for you guys. But y'all need to be careful, especially if you're a woman, because this is scary. I don't know what it is with Kroger. I don't know if they're like hiring or they have some kind of contract with like demons or something, but as soon as like their face got distorted and their eyes turned black, I literally screamed and yelped, and literally my eggs fell on the ground and broke. Y'all, when I say I ran so fast, I'm still out of breath, y'all. I'm still out of breath. Y'all stay safe out there. Y'all stay safe out there. What the fuck? Hello? Can I help you?
I have a massive update about the guy I saw with black eyes. I've been tossing this up in the air for a little bit, whether I should post a video or not. And I decided to, just because I promised a few people that I would keep them updated on what happened. I'm a little confused, I'm not gonna lie. I went into work this morning. My boss told me because Monday is a holiday, he's like, why don't you go ahead and do your Monday route today? That way we don't have to worry about it. Awesome. So I get in my van, I'm making deliveries. I had to stop at that guy's company. I didn't see him in the window. I dropped the part like normal. I got like maybe a mile down the road. I just pulled over because everything in my stomach, in my gut, in my heart was like, you know what, maybe you should have done this before, but let's Google his name. And I Googled his name. I have more questions now than I did before. Because the first thing that popped up was his face, and underneath it, it said obituary, that he died in October of 23. Was I handing parts to a ghost? I'm 100% sure that I am of right frame of mind. I know I was handing that guy parts. And you know, I try to do logical thinking too, like people keep telling me to do. And I'm like, maybe he's got a twin brother. But in what family do you have twins and name them the exact same thing? So that kind of doesn't sit well with me. So that tells me that I handed my parts to somebody that died in October. How is that possible? The next time I see that company, I'm going to walk in and ask them about him. I'm just massively confused, but I wanted to share this because I don't know what to take of this, and I'm hoping for some opinions. I don't want to hear that schizophrenia crap because I know I don't have it. I'm not going to a psychiatrist. I don't need it. I know 110% that I was handing that guy the parts. I don't know. I honestly don't. I'm still not going to give up his name or his address. And now, because of respect for his family, I'm at a loss for words. So if anybody knows any ideas, please, like, message me, tell me. I am completely lost right now. I almost quit my job over it. Anyway, like I said, if you have any questions or you want to chime in on what you think it is, please do so. Until the next one, I love you all. God bless.
One of the hosts of America's Got Talent posted a photo and people noticed something strange in the background. Looking closely behind her, you can see that some of the members appear to have distorted facial features, and on the right side as well, which have led multiple people to believe that this may be an AI generated crowd to hide their identity or fill it out more, while others believe that this may be part of the demon face syndrome that some are claiming to have witnessed.
This is the most terrifying thing I've ever seen. This is demon face syndrome, a brand new neurological disease that's been found where people see others as demons. I know what you're thinking, Chris, you're completely out of your mind, but look, to the left you have a normal person, and then to the right you have what some people see. Now, the craziest thing is that in the whole entire world, in forever, there's only been 75 cases. Now all of a sudden this is all over the news. And as I said, it's said to be a neurological disease that happens when staring at people for too long. All of a sudden they get extremely elongated ears, their face more or less contorts, and they get an extremely deep, sinister smile, which is making me feel like these people aren't even real people at all. This is more or less some kind of uncanny valley type thing, which if you guys don't know what the uncanny valley is, it's more or less where you make something that makes people look like people, but they're not actually people at all. And as I said, the craziest thing is this is all over the news, yet only 75 cases have ever been reported. It's currently being studied at Dartmouth. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, Chris, this only happens sometimes. From what I've read and what I've seen, people who have this syndrome see people people like this all of the time. There's been multiple people who have came out and said that this is what they see all the time. This is what they view people as. Now, I'm gonna be honest. Is this a soft launch for aliens or some kind of demonic beings being released to the public? I don't know. But I can't help but think, how are 75 people affected, yet this is major national news? Kinda weird.
So I really wanted to come on here and talk about my experience with the whole demon face syndrome thing. I have told the story to a couple of my friends or whatever, and it's just crazy that just now this is starting to be a thing. I feel like this is something that has always happened. I'm not sure why I saw it, but I want to talk about my experience. So this is around high school time. So this is like 2013, 2012. My aunt had a boyfriend. He was very, very cool. It was just, there was something always off about him. Like, he was overly everything, if that makes sense. He was overly nice, overly giving. It was like he had no boundaries, which was very, very weird because I just wasn't used to it. I was always used to my aunt's husband, which he's great guy. But still, it was just something that I just was not used to seeing. You know what I'm saying? It was new to my family, to her, to everything. He was just overly everything. So one day we were all chilling. We were at my aunt's house, and we were all, just chilling, talking in the kitchen. My grandma's there, he's there, my aunt's there. We're all just talking. Great conversation. And of course, he's being overly him, if that makes sense. So while they're all talking, I'm quiet. Something tells me just to look at him. So I just, I look at him. When I first take a glance at this man, he actually looks normal. So I look at him. And, as he's talking, because I'm just one of those people, whoever has the floor, I'm going to look at you. Have the floor. Here you go. But as he's talking, I literally see his face go from the normal face that we've always seen him to exactly what they say the demon face syndrome face looks like. It was the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. So he's still talking. His face is changing in front of me. At this point, I'm listening, but I'm looking at him like, am I freaking tripping right now? Does anybody else see what I'm seeing? What the heck? Mind you, he's not looking at me. He's still talking to everybody else. So he's not even paying attention to the fact that I'm looking right at him. At this point, I'm like, okay, now it's starting to freak me out because his face did not stop changing. It didn't reach the demon face and stop. It kept changing. I'm going to show you exactly what I saw. This right here is what I saw. I don't know how to make it bigger, but this is what I saw. His face went to normal to this within like probably 5 seconds. Like his eyes started to stretch out. It's like his face was being pulled from the back. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Now, what's crazy about that whole thing is the fact that I never really told anybody what I saw because I thought maybe I'm tripping, but I could not get that image out of my head. I could not get that whole thing out of my head because I know while I was looking at him, I'm like, am I freaking tripping right now? So it was about probably a year or two later. My aunt, we were just talking about him and things like that because at this point they had broke up. They broke up shortly after that. I finally tell her what I saw. And she's like, that's very crazy because she said that same night, his mother actually asked my aunt to come over to do a ceremony. And it turned out that his mother actually practiced witchcraft. Now, I don't know if that was something that could have been related to what I saw. I don't know, but that was something that was just like, whoa, that's very weird. On top of that, he was a Mason. I don't know. The whole Mason thing. I've heard different theories about the whole Mason thing. So I don't know if that could be tied to it or that's just me overanalyzing. But I said all that to say that demon face syndrome, that stuff is real. You can see these things. I've seen it and I will never forget that image. So y'all just better be careful, child, because I never seen, heard from him. Like, it's like they were just completely wiped away from the earth after that.
Hey, so I got an update on the guy I saw with the black eyes and the pointy ears. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look at my profile. It's all pinned. Be able to catch up that way. So today I made a delivery to that company. And luckily for me, there was a mechanic standing out front. I walked over and I asked him a couple questions about the old man that used to work there. And he said, yeah, the owner passed away in October. He died of brain cancer. And that the guy's daughter was now running the company. And, I was going to ask a few more questions, but then the daughter came outside. And the mechanic was like, oh, this guy over here is asking questions about your dad. I was just filling him in a little bit. And And she looked at me and she was like, yeah, do you have any questions you want to ask? And, sometimes you gotta make judgment calls. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, whoa, you're dumb. What are you doing that for? I don't feel like it was a dumb decision. So she asked if I had any questions, and I said no. And I said the only thing that I want to say is, I'm sorry this is a late response. And I was like, but I just wanted to say I'm sorry for your loss and my condolences. And I gave her a hug, and she said thank you. And I was like, take care of yourself, okay? And I got in my van and I left. I will not be following up with that anymore. I don't, it's not worth seeing that. I could feel the pain coming off of her. It's not worth it. Her dad just passed away. I'm not going to do that. But if you are her and you're watching this video, I'm sorry you had to find out this way. But just know I did it with the best of intentions. I didn't want to upset you any further. Yeah. So that's where we're sitting with that. Some of you aren't going to like it, but that's how it's going to be. I feel like I did the right thing. I'm not pushing anything with them. I mean, think about it. If it was your dad and he passed away a couple months ago, whatever, and then you have some guy asking him like questions about their dad and seeing a ghost and whatever, I can't do that to her. That's not right. So I'm just gonna try my best to let it go and move on. So that's my update. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If not, I don't know what to tell you.
All right, so I was not going to say anything about this demon face syndrome.
Okay, so I've never really talked about this because I was afraid that the world would think I was fucking crazy. I've talked about it to people who I'm very close to, but like, that's it. And even then, I still think they're kind of crazy. So I've had 2 experiences specifically with this situation, and both times made me feel like I was losing my fucking mind. The first time was my manager had called me like the day before and said, hey, if you're late one more time to work, like, you're gonna get fired. So of course I'm freaking out. I got in my car, I started to reverse on this shift to work, and I realized that I left my fucking phone on top of my car. So I'm like a block down, and I realized I left my phone on top of my car. On top of that, it's flown into some grass. My screen case was green. Like, all hope was gone. Well, all of a sudden this woman comes up and she's like, are you okay? Because I'm outside, like, looking frantically. I've pulled over on the side of the road. She goes, are you okay? And I said, I lost my phone. Can you please call it? And she goes, I don't have a phone. I can't afford it. And I said, oh my God, that sucks. I'm so sorry. And she's like, but I'll help you. She found it. She found my phone. And when she came back to me, I was like, is there anything that you need? Like, can I help you? What can I do to help? And she told me that she did not have any food. So I gave her all the tips that I had because I'm a hairstylist. So I gave her my tips. And then I went to work. I got off at about 7:30. I went to the grocery store and I dropped like $200 on this woman. Came back, went to the house where she told me she lived. And when I knocked on the door, she did not answer it. And I know that sounds crazy because physically she answered it. Like, it was the same woman, but it did not look like her anymore. I don't really know how to explain that or put that into different terms, but her face was her face, but it was not her face. Her eyes were shifting in front of me. The energy behind her was so negative. Like, she didn't even feel like a woman anymore. She felt kind of androgynous, not saying that there's anything wrong, but like, the features were so different. And there was no makeup involved. There's nothing. The features were so different, and they kept moving. And like, her smile was just a little too bigger than it was earlier. And her, I know that I had just done some, but I wish I could explain it, because I know, again, I sound crazy at this, but I don't talk to people about it. But like, this was not the same woman. And her features were morphed, and she was morphing, and her eyes kept shifting. Like, I was watching her eyes shift, and not like dilate and stuff, but like slant in. Like,
it gives me goosebumps because I don't know. All I knew was that whatever it was evil. And I'm very sensitive with energies, and I felt like if I did not get out, like I unloaded the food because she still helped me, but I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. And she was like, can you please, do you want to stay and hang out? And I was like, I can't, I'm so sorry. And she's like, will you come back over? And I was like, I can't. Well, I mean, I probably said yes because I'm a big fat liar sometimes, but I've never been so fucking scared. And who do you even tell about that? How do you even talk about that? But her face was morphing in front of me. It wasn't her anymore. She was different, and it was scary. And I was watching it in real time, and here I am thinking like maybe there's something wrong with me. It just sticks with me. I know that sounds crazy. I know that I'm probably saying a whole bunch of something without saying anything, but if you've been through it, you understand. The second time was at Walmart. I was walking by the deli counter and I felt somebody staring into my soul, basically. Like I could just feel it burning. And I look around and I look at the deli section where the man is slicing meat or whatever, and he looks up at me, and I shit you not, he's looking down and he goes, but like everything started to elongate. So when Lady Gaga had those prosthetics that she used to wear where she used to like point out her shit, that happened in front of my face. I was watching him, and it felt mucky, it felt disgusting, it felt dark, it scared the fuck out of me. And at this point I'm kind of like pissed off that it's happened to me twice. So if I am going crazy, that's one thing. But I've seen a lot of weird shit, especially just who I am as a person and being raised by a paranormal investigator. But I got pissed off. So I just looked him down like, motherfucker, try me. And he would not break that stare. He kept for like 30 seconds. So even if he wasn't a demon face guy, that's already kind of weird that he's still sitting there down with like this creepy fucking smile on his face with like ugh. And of course you can't talk about it. You can't talk about that because people will think that you're fucking insane. And maybe I am, and that's fine. But I've heard a lot of theories as to why you might see this or why this happens. I have this like mom she's like my adopted mom, but she's amazing, and she has a lot of reasons behind it, but whatever. Anyway, so that's what happened to me. If anybody else has been through that, let me know. If you want to hear more about the theories on why my like spiritual Hebrew mom says that this is happening, I can tell you that too. But these are the two scariest things that have happened, and it was indescribable. It still gives me goosebumps. It still fucks me up.
Hey y'all, I want to talk about demon face syndrome. What a crock of shit that they're trying to feed us about this being a new syndrome. This is not new. Secondly, as more people awaken and the veil gets thinner and thinner, this is going to become widespread. A little backstory on myself. At the time, I was ending a very chaotic relationship with a covert narcissist. When I looked over at him, and for me, and I'm sure it's different for everybody, but for me, it's like a Phantom of the Opera style mask, right? So I can only peer right here, and I see all that I need to see in that little bit. But when I look over at him, he is melted skin. And I'll save my theories on the melted skin for another day. Now, of course, when this happened, I had no idea that what I was seeing wasn't some kind of, I don't know, mental breakdown or psychosis or something, because it was pretty intense. The next mask I appeared under was, again, Phantom of the Opera, and he was full reptilian. In the past year and a half or so, I've been able to see beneath maybe 5 masks. Actually, I take that back. It's 24/7 that I could see beneath the mask, but now it's a little bit different for me. The best way that I can explain it is that these people that you're encountering, that have the demon face. What's going on with them is simply their outside appearance matches their inside. And I have another whole theory about that. But I mainly wanted to come on here and tell you that you're not going crazy. And no, you don't have some new syndrome that you need to be medicated for. You're awakening. And the veil has been lifted from your eyes. Welcome aboard.
Let me tell y'all about the first time I saw a demon in a person's eyes. I was about 18 years old at the time, and I wasn't saved. Me, my mother, and my sister, we were living in this apartment community, and this is the first time we had been living at any place for an extended amount of time. We had been staying out there for like 5-6 years at that time. And I remember there was this guy out there. As long as we had lived out there, he had lived out there. I knew him, I saw him, but I didn't know him up close and personal because he was like 9 years older than me. And so he was just somebody I would see in passing every now and again. And, you know, he never really said much of anything to me besides hello. And that's all I said to him. I remember when he was doing his thing in the world or what have you, he's a really, really good looking guy. So he seemed to have problems with women. But then I remember it's like he went away for a minute and then all of a sudden he reemerged. We're going to call this guy Jason. When Jason reemerged, he had what he claimed to be a conversion experience. According to Jason, he had a face-to-face encounter with the Lord himself. I can say this much. He had definitely changed, right? Something happened to him because he was no longer this pretty guy that was just having fun with women. He started walking around with a Bible in his hands. And he would stop anybody and talk about Jesus. And he had all these stories about supernatural encounters he had had. And after Jason's alleged conversion, he suddenly drew interest, or he suddenly had an interest in me again. He was 27 at this time. I was 18. So he was too old for me. To me, he had worms. And when I say he had it for me, he had it for me bad, to the point where he started asking my mom for my hand. Like he said, I want to date your daughter. I have good intentions for your daughter. I'm thinking about marriage. My mom could be a little bit opinionated about dudes I dated, but as it related to Jason, she didn't say much of anything. I could tell she wasn't like, yay, get with him. But at the same time, she was kind of like, I don't really want to put my mouth in that situation. So she was just like, you know, you'll have to talk to her. That's her decision. And she never said anything to me about it, except for the fact that he had become a little bit strange. And to get close to me, Jason started coming to our house a lot. And he would always help, you know, with things that my mom needed done around the house, like fixing stuff. And he always made it a point to let my mom know that he had a crush on me and that he had good intentions for me. I had a car at the time, and I remember he had even fixed my car a few times. One day, Jason was at our house, and it started getting late. And he asked me if I would come outside and talk to him. And I said, okay. So I go outside and I go sit in his car with him. And Jason starts talking to me about Jesus. He starts talking to me about his experiences, his encounters with the Lord. And let me tell you something. Again, this was a good looking man. But one thing about him, he was so good looking that he had started becoming a little bit pretty to me, which was weird. And not only that, Jason had a perm. That was the thing that turned me off. Besides his age was the fact that he had a perm. So we're sitting in the car and it's dark, and he starts telling me all these different stories. Now, let me tell you something. I was a clown at that time. What I mean by that is that I was always cracking jokes. I thought a lot of things were funny. And the whole idea of this man being attracted to me for whatever reason, I found it funny and a little bit annoying. So when Jason starts telling me about his face-to-face encounters with Jesus, and he tells me that whenever he gets out the bathtub, there's a gold ring around the bathtub, I took that moment to take a jab at him. I said, that's dirt. You need to wash out the bathtub. But he insisted that it was gold dust. Anyhow, the conversation was going okay. And then all of a sudden he keeps talking about his encounters. And I started looking over at him because he was like staring deep. And like I felt like he was looking through me. So I tried to give him some eye contact, and I could see the white of his eyes as he was talking. And I think I must have looked away for a second when I looked back at him as he was talking about an encounter. He had no white in his eyes. His eyes were completely black. So I stared and I kept trying to move my head in position. I'm trying to look at his eyes. I think because it's dark outside, it's got to be something going on with me. but there was no white in his eyes. His eyes were completely black. So I grabbed the handle. I did. I grabbed the handle and I looked away for a second. I was trying to get out the car. He said, wait, where are you going? When I looked back at him, the white of his eyes had returned. So I stared at him freakishly for a minute, and then I told him what had happened. I was like, your eyes turned black. And I think he tried to convince me that I was having a supernatural, godly encounter with him. So I relaxed and I started talking, but this time I'm watching him. And again, it happened again. He started talking to me. He let his head down. When he looked back up at me, his eyes were pitch black. So when I started looking closer and turning my head, he recognized what was happening and he started laughing. Oh yeah, I grabbed that door handle again. I was getting my tail out that car. He stopped me from getting out the car. When I looked back at him, I remember his eyes were still pitch dark. I was freaked out. Then when I looked away again and looked back at him, his eyes had transitioned again. But he started trying to convince me that that was a godly encounter. One thing I remember him telling me as well was that God told him I was his wife. When I tell you that's reminding me of a renunciation I got to make it a point to make on tonight. But that was it. I literally saw this man's eyes turn completely and utterly black. And yes, he was moving his head. There was that street light on outside. His eyes had turned black on multiple occasions while I was sitting in that car. That was my first encounter with a demon. I didn't know I was called to the ministry of deliverance at that time. I didn't even know about the ministry of deliverance at that time. I knew about exorcisms, but I didn't know I was called to the ministry of deliverance, but that was a thing. Now, if you ask me whatever happened with Jason, I don't even remember. I think I went off on him. I got him to leave me alone at some point. Oh, I forgot to mention, when I told him that his eyes had turned black initially, he told me that that wasn't the first time that it had happened. After that, I started avoiding him like the plague. So yeah, that was my first time seeing a demon in a person's eyes.